Okay, class, we're going to do an example spreadsheet here with a couple of the things I mentioned in the lectures. So the first thing I'm going to do is follow my own advice, and I'm going to name my model. And for this spreadsheet, I'm going to call it Example Excel Cell References, Formulas, and Precedents Dependence, just so I know what this is and why I'm working with this. We're going to try to give you guys some tools here that make it a little bit easier to think through how you use formulas and how you use cell references in Excel. To do that, I'm going to calculate the area of some circles. And this is a really simple idea. So I know a few things, and sometimes in Excel, you just put down what you know. So I know that the area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. Okay, so that's the area of a circle. Now let's say that I've got some data here, and I've got a data section that's going to have some calculations in it as well. And in my data section, I know that my circles, I've got multiple different diameters. And I'm curious, what's the difference in the diameter? What's the difference in the area of these circles if these diameters are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Okay. Before I start typing and putting things in that are formulas, I need to be able to refer to the rest of the things that I need to have in my formula. So besides knowing the diameter, I need to be able to have access to pi. Okay, so right here, I'm going to put the value of pi, next to my number 1. Okay, and I'm just going to do 3.14. Some of you are cringing already. You're like, oh, it can be so much more accurate on pi. I don't want to be. I don't want false precision. I just want to know kind of generically what is the area of a circle with these pieces here. I put this in as a number where I can see it. I'm not going to put it inside a formula because all formulas should refer only to other cells. Do not ever put scalar numbers, values, assumptions inside of your formulas. When you did tiny spreadsheets, it's okay. You can find it again. I'm trying to get you prepared when you might build a big spreadsheet. So everything needs to be visible, and inside a formula, it's just other cell references. Okay. So in this case, if I hit the equal sign, that tells us we're about to do a formula. And I'm going to say that the area of the circle is pi. There's my pi. And it's going to be times my radius squared. Okay. And that meets my intuition because it comes out here, and I know that 1 squared is still 1, and that times 3.14 is still 3.14, so my formula is working. Okay. Now, there's a few different ways that you can copy and paste. I'm a little bit on the old school side of things, so I tend to hit Control-C to copy, and I highlight where I want to put it, and I hit Control-V. And I did that on purpose so you could see how this worked. Oh no, I came down the page here, and it's not working. My pi times radius squared doesn't work, and I need to figure out why. In a bigger sheet, and yes, it's easy to figure it out in this baby sheet. In a bigger sheet, it might be hard to figure it out. So I'm going to show you a few things. First, I'm going to show you that whenever I'm in Excel, if I click on the Formulas tab, so normally this is the tool set that's showing under Home. If I'll click on Formulas, and I'm going to start with this second one, this 2 here, and I'm going to say, wow, I'm going to click Trace Precedents, and it's going to show which cells that formula is referring to with a series of arrows. So it's picking up on this C9 cell, and then it's picking up on the D9 cell. Ah, no wonder. I'm multiplying times a blank cell. That's why I'm getting a 0. Okay? I could have found this another way. I could have highlighted my pi and clicked on Trace Dependence. Oh, and at the moment, only this one cell is picking up on that pi formula. So I've done something wrong. I need to fix my formulas before I can make this work correctly. Now, once I've figured out what's going on here, I can go back up here and click on Remove Arrows. What I've done wrong is this. Everything inside of my formula, and if you press Function F2, it'll pop up and look like this so that you can troubleshoot. And the cell reference inside of my cell will show up color-coded to match the cell that it's referring to. Makes it a little easier to find some things. So I have relative references throughout. What I need for pi is an absolute reference. So if I know I'm only pasting down the page, I could choose to put a $ only on row 8. In the case of this model, that would be sufficient to keep the reference on that one cell. If I know throughout my entire model I might copy this same piece several times, and pi is an absolute value that's not going to change. I'm probably not going to have it going across a page also. I might choose to just make it an absolute reference in terms of row and column, so $2 there. So what that is going to do is going to lock that reference for pi in place on D8. It will then allow the reference in C8, the diameter, to change as I copy and paste. So I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to repeat the copy paste. This time I'm going to use the technique of the simple drag and release. So I gripped the bottom corner of the cell and simply dragged it. And what that does is it tells Excel I want to copy down the page with that same formula. Okay? I can undo that, and I can do it another way. That cell's already highlighted. Okay? I could choose to right click and say copy, and then highlight where I want to go and right click again, and I can say paste, and that does the same thing. Okay? So whatever units this is, call this 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters. The area of each of these circles is 3.14, 12.56, 28.26. And what made that possible is I have a combination of an absolute reference to pi and a relative reference to the diameter. Okay? Now I can go through and check again. So back on my formulas tab again, let me highlight pi. And this time I'm going to click trace dependence. And sure enough, this time it's obvious. Each one of my resulting areas, and somebody out there was already cringing because I didn't label area. Now I have each one of my necessary areas is referring back to pi every single time. This dependent precedent tool is incredibly powerful for troubleshooting. Okay? Same thing I did a minute ago. If I click on my 78.5, I can click on trace precedents, and it is showing me that precedent over here is in 5. And then I also already had, because the dependent arrow was already there, it's showing that it's also reaching back to pi. So that is a relative reference and an absolute reference. Another tool you can use, let's remove those arrows, in order to troubleshoot your spreadsheet, is you can press the Control key and the tilde, upper left-hand side of your sheet, and it will show all of your formulas in your spreadsheet. So instead of showing the resulting formula for area, the resulting value for area, it shows the formula that got you there. And as you click through your spreadsheet, you can see it shows you which cells were being referenced as you went through it. Press Control tilde again, and that will go away. Here's one more tool you might choose to use. It's the formula function. So I type formula, open parentheses, click on the cell with a formula in it, close parentheses. Okay, class, I started to misspeak there, so I stopped the recording for a second. And now I've got my thoughts straight. In order to show the formula in an adjacent cell as a text string, to use it as a troubleshooting tool, you can type in the function formula text. Okay, it looks just like this. Open parentheses, click your cell reference, close parentheses, enter, and I can copy that down the page. So it simply shows as a text string what the formula is in the cell that you referenced. Okay? If you do this to a numerical, just to show you here, highlight this 5 and hit it, you get a does not compute because it's not a formula, it's just a value. Okay, so this is one of the tools that you can use. I don't use this one as much, but so you can kind of see. So if I press the Control tilde sign again, now the cell that has real formulas in it shows up as formulas. The cells that have that function in them shows up as formula text referring to a cell. And if I press Control tilde again, it puts everything back where it was. And you have text strings here showing the formulas adjacent to it. So that's a quick review of absolute and relative references and a couple of tools for troubleshooting referencing inside of your spreadsheets.